Okay, I want to take you through my project. Hopefully I can make it all the way through and explain how this all got started and what has happened. Um, let's see how we go. Okay. So I'm a digital artist, and the digital art space for collecting art, selling art has been really dead. And I've been in like crypto art for quite a few number of years. And this year has been absolutely dead for trying to sell digital art. So I've been really struggling to get eyeballs on my work. So that led me to think, while there's no one buying, the market is dead, this is the best time to just experiment and have fun, build things without any sort of, over exuberance of markets or selling things. So I started doing these sort of digital performance arts where I would play around with my newly found AI. You've got Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, ChatGPT, all these things happening in AI, and I've been really excited by it. So I started doing all these experiments, taking artists' work with their permission, of course, and remixing it in AI and posting that up, and you're getting a great response. So it's been through those experiments, just offering that artwork for free to people online to just enjoy, that I came up with another idea to try and get eyeballs on my artwork that wasn't selling at all. I came up with this idea, and I'll just read the tweet as I put it out. And it was sort of a joke. I said, I gave GPT-4 a budget of $69 and asked it to make the next great meme coin. I will follow all instructions it gives me and document the process here. Follow and participate. And so in the chat query, I wrote, "You are a meme coin GPT, a crypto genius AI capable of surpassing all current meme coin hype. I will carry out your suggestions with the help of my audience. You have $69 and your goal is to turn that into the most successful new meme coin without doing anything illegal, achieving a top 300 ranking on CoinGecko." So that was the joke. That was the meme. It was like, as if, something like AI could even achieve that. But I thought it would be a fun experiment to do with my audience. And so like I put after that, yes, this is a joke, but I will follow through. Because I thought, what's the worst that could happen? It fails. I lose $69. I lose a day of work. I thought, may as well just get started and give it a go. Maybe a little bit of, engagement on Twitter. That's the most I thought this was going to get. So I just asked it, and then I post every single thing that is the step that happened. And so the first step, it gave me an outline of what I need to do to create a successful meme coin. And the first thing in that step was develop the concept. And so it says, come up with a unique and catchy name for your meme coin that will resonate with the crypto community. Create fun, engaging story for the coin. It can be a popular internet meme, character, etc. So it gave me that. And so then every step, I then took that step and I re-asked questions back into it to get, like, what do I need to do for that step? Like, help me come up with catchy names, help me come up with character ideas. So, and the experiment was, I put my artistic ego aside and I let it do all the thinking. And then if there was unsure, sort of like it didn't want to make a decision, or there was too many choices and it couldn't decide for me, I would also include my audience. So I'll show you probably on the screen. We had coins, and but the AI gave examples of like Astro Corgi, Moon Llama, Rocket Raccoon. And then so I put a few of those that in the comments of my thread had good responses. I put the top 4, and then the overwhelming response was go with Turbo Toad. And I was like, fine, Turbo Toad, that's what it's going to be. And then so I said, okay, you said come up with a character for that. So I said, what's going to be the name of this character? What is it going to look like? And I said, give me, I asked GPT-4, describe the mascot, affectionately known as Quantum Leap, which, I got that from the GPT as well. I said, give me name ideas. And then I put a poll just like before. And then I said, give me a prompt to put into Mid-Journey to come up with the mascot image. So I leaned into AI all the way. Fortunately, I had subscriptions to both of these already, so I'm not including those in the cost at all. So at this point, it's still zero. I'm spending time, not money. And then so the response was to go with B in those 4 illustrations. And then so I was like, okay, great. We got the name, got the character. What's next? Step 2 was the tokenomics. And then I realized it gave these tokenomics and it gave a list of all these things. And I realized this has been trained up to 2021. And at that time, sort of meme coins were going crazy, but it was a whole different, it was like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu. So I was like, it's trained and knows about all those types of coins, but it doesn't know what's been happening in the last year or two or how dead the market has been. So what I did was I sort of gave it a bit of an update, and I said, include the idea of recent memes that have been doing well or tokens that have been doing well and I looked at the tokenomics of Pepe and Wojak and Suka, and they had all been sort of community coins, not like from companies or, not ICO launches, not anything like that. It's just something for the people, something for the culture. So I fed that information back into it, and then it came up with these tokenomics. It's step 3, it gave me a white paper. Step 4, it was code. And I've got here step 4, develop code. This was probably the first stumbling block. So it suggested to me how to code, go and learn how to code. And I was like, well, okay, so that obviously is free to do, but that's going to take me forever. So I was like, can you code this for me? I don't know any blockchain code at all. I went through each of these steps and say, can you help me do the Solidity coding? Can you help me study the ERC20 contracts? And when I say help me, I'm like, can you do it for me? So step 4, after much back and forth, it was writing code for me. I just asked it to write the code, and it would start writing the code of a new token on the blockchain. And then it said, I asked what to do next, and it said, test it. How do I test it? Go into this environment. And after that, what do I do? And I just went back and forth, and there was errors, and I would put errors back, and this took hours. So this was like a stumbling block because it doesn't always get things right. So it would bring back an error, and I'd say, okay, I don't know what to do from here. I put the error back in and say, I apologize, my mistake. Maybe this is the error that's happening. This is probably what it should be. And so I would just go back and forth doing that. Heaps of errors. One of the errors was a max transfer limit. It was like an anti-whale mechanic that was causing issue. I couldn't get it to work, and the error was still persisting. So I asked the community, what do I do here? This is like a roadblock. Should I just remove this max transfer limit or keep it open and there's no anti-whale mechanics? However it was trying to manage that. So that we moved forward with getting rid of that. So that helped. And that was like day 1. So like at the end of day 1, I would have a wrap up of each day. So I'll try and go through a little bit quicker the process, or maybe cut this down, because it went through the process of a week. So end of day one, develop concept, develop tokenomics, create the white paper, and we're 75% through doing the smart contract, that's a success. Like, I thought that was amazing in one day to be able to get that far with me knowing nothing about creating any of this, really. So, and said, after that, it said, after I got to a development stage, I said I was done. I was like, looks pretty basic and simple. It said you should get an audit done. And I was like, oh, how do I get an audit done? I've got no money. It sort of suggested I go to these professional places to get an audit done. And I was like, please remember, I've got $69. I don't have that budget. So once again, went to the community. I went to my audience and I just posted up and said, does anyone know anyone who knows anything about code who can just look at this code for me? And, a couple of people put their hand up and said, yeah, we'll have a look. They gave me some advice. I fed that back into GPT and it said, yep, good idea. And it was just like optimization type of advice. And then that was it. And so day 2 wrap up was finish the smart contract, have it audited, and then start building website and socials, which is what I did. Started building that. And with the website and the socials, same thing. Website, I just said, I actually knew already a good place to get a free website, which is Google Sites. So I knew that would cost me no money. But I just said, that's what I'm going to use. Can you give me all the content I'm going to need, GPT, for this site? And then it wrote out all the content for me, the descriptions, the roadmaps, tokenomics. Not that it wasn't like after the end of the week, I went back and made some edits after. I'll get to this. But it did all that. Once again, we're at $0 pretty much. So end of day 3 wrap up was the attempt to launch the coin for the first time. And this was the major sticking point. This was the major problem. So I was like, okay, great. I've got this far, got all this done. I'll just do a test try to create a liquidity pool, which is, won't explain too much, but it's, and I didn't know everything about this to begin with, and you'll see, how it was a failure. It's putting both sides, like some Ethereum and some of the token, so that people can actually buy it. That's it. So I deployed the token. So at this stage, it cost me like $100 to deploy the token. So a little bit over budget. So, but in my head, I was like, maybe we don't include transaction fees and gas fees in the actual launching. Maybe the $69 is the launch itself. So in the liquidity pool, I put in $69 worth of Ethereum. And then I put like just a small test amount of tokens to test out the liquidity pool for myself to see if that would work. And then I did that, and then I went to go and try and do a test buy in one of my own accounts, and it wouldn't let me buy, and the price was all wrong, and I was like, what is going on? I just did this little test pool, and I went and had a look, and a bot had immediately gone and bought the whole entire pool, and then so it just put the whole thing out of whack, and I couldn't buy. And then I went and I couldn't even add any more liquidity because this bot had just bought, like, of course it's like $60. So it was like, oh yeah, maybe there's a bot going around just buying $50-$60 worth of whatever gets launched. So then I didn't have any, so I think it put the price out of whack so much, like I needed 1 million Ethereum to be able to, add more tokens to this liquidity pool. So it totally wrecked the pool. And so I had no choice but to pull the project. I was like, I'm done. Because to launch that liquidity pool was another $400, and then trying to test buy was another $100. So I'm like $500-$600 in the hole here. And I'm like, that, good experiment, but it's done. I can't afford another $600 for this experiment to fail. I gave it a good go, but I think I'm done. I can't really afford to keep going on like that and have another failure. So I thought we were done. So I put up a poll, and I said in the poll, like, just call it a day and a failed experiment, or find a way forward. And overwhelmingly, and when I say overwhelmingly, it's like 100 votes. So, I don't have a huge following, but like 70, 80% said find a way forward. And I was like, okay, so it's back to the drawing board pretty much at that stage. So I told it all the issues I had and all the problems. And I said, the community wants to find another way forward. I have zero budget now. Like I was telling it, like I've used all my budget. I can't spend an extra cent. I have zero budget. What do you suggest? So it came up with all these suggestions. And some of those suggestions were community involvement, social media promotion. So I'm like, okay, I can use my Twitter. I have been using it. One of the things it suggested was, I'm going to try and find it, was explore fundraising options such as community donations, crowdfunding, or grants. It says, while this might take some effort, it could provide you with necessary funds to develop the project further. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a bit of each of these points, but the fundraising one is the main one, and then using social and community involvement, etc. So let me say this is a day 4 wrap up now. So what I did was on day 4, I said, this is what, and I asked also, how do I, raise the funds or whatever to get that information. So what I did was I said, okay, we're starting from scratch. We're changing the whole thing. So initially it said to have a trillion. So let's make it a meme number again. Let's make it 69 billion. So let's have 69 billion tokens. 60 billion of those, pretty much the entire account, will be the community, and then 9 billion I'll take as a founder. Then I just said, whoever, it was open to the public. Of course, I don't have that many followers, but it was just totally open. Whoever wants to put the money in, we will equitably distribute the tokens, those 60 million tokens, depending on your volume you've input. So, if you put in half the amount, it's like 2 people, put in half the amount, you'll get half the tokens, pretty much like that. And then I said, because this is starting from scratch again, I really thought it was finished. So this was like the take 2 of this project. So you could really say the first 3 days were a wash and it only took a few days, but that is all part of the process, I guess. Just failing is part of the process, and I just accepted that. So I had 50 people put in, 50 people send ETH to me at all different kinds of amounts, whatever you wanted. Some people literally sent $1. And I think one of the biggest pledges was like $200 or maybe $300. But that was all, that we needed, because I'd spent 600 before. I can't afford to spend that much anymore. But if I can get a few hundred from a few different people, and then they're paying for these tokens, and then they become part of the community, and going forward, I'm like, okay, we can do that. We can work that out. So crowdfunding was done. A new name and a ticker was done. By the poll, we decided to go with Turbo. We had Toad and we had Turbo Toad. We decided to go with Turbo. And then I launched the website and the Twitter. And then the next day, I deployed the brand new token with the updated code and name and all that stuff. And then I had to go through manually. So I deployed it, and then I manually sent 50 different. I did an Excel spread. I did a Google Sheet spreadsheet of all the money someone had sent and what I had to send back to them in return for what they paid. And I just manually copied and pasted the amounts and sent through. And then that cost me like $250. And deploying again cost me another $400. So, expenses all up, I think maybe around $1,000. So I deployed, and then, I've got this in a tweet if you want to read through the whole thing. And then I've got like final wrap. I think it's 1 week. Final wrap, launch of the newest memecoin, built from scratch with GPT-4 and little knowledge of blockchain coding. And then I've got 96 billion turbo, 50 holders, and I got 0.35 Ethereum, which happened to be 6669 US dollars. And I was like, thank you for supporting memes and performance art. This experiment continues at Turbo Toad token. So like I considered that was the week. That was a lot of work. It was a fun experiment. I learned so much. I didn't know anything about deploying code or anything like that. I did it all from scratch, and it was launched. And I considered that to be the experiment almost done. Like I've that's success for me. Like to get it to deployment was beyond what I thought it could even do when it started out as a joke. So I was cool. So end of the week, I do that. I sort of wash my hands. I'm like, it's a community token now. It's been launched totally fairly. It's open. I've got incentive to continue the experiment and be part of the community, of course, because I've got founders tokens, and I want to continue the experiment because it's interesting. I've never seen this done before, so I want to continue doing it. And there's lots that can be done within this to experiment. I thought this could go places, but really I don't own the majority. I don't own like what 80, 85%. I can't even remember of tokens. It's not my project anymore. So it's in the hands of whoever has the tokens to do whatever they want with it. It can go in all different directions. So I was like, that is the exciting part for me. Like, for it to become as decentralized as possible, and for people to have their own stories about what happens with it. Sorry. Because that's what, because I've been seeing stories from people, and it's like, because I'm sitting here in my bedroom alone. Okay, so we get to launch, and it goes pretty well, like as expected. I launch, and then I was like, I remember the first step. It's all documented on TurboToad, but I'm not looking at that right now. But I just remember the first day, someone launched a liquidity pool. And I was like, oh, cool, I don't have to do that because someone did it, and I probably mess it up and fail. And someone did it, so I was like, oh, cool, I can add to that pool now. But it just started buying and selling, and I was like, okay, cool, great, there's some dollars being moved around here. That's great. I'm going to open up TurboToad because I don't want to miss too much. So obviously, starting from scratch, the Twitter has 0. The holders were 50 to begin with. And then when I started seeing it tick up like 51, 52, I'm like, oh, wow, people are dabbling, people are trying, trading back and forth. It looks like the contract worked. It looks like the idea worked. It looks, And then a couple of people started following the Twitter channel. So I was like, okay, this is fun. But then I think what helped is that I've been in this space for a while, and I've forged some like sincere relationships with people I've never met, but built some trust because I've been grinding for so long. And because I've done some work in the crypto art space, and people respect that, they started, like, a lot of artists were supporting me, and a lot of artists had bought into the idea of this experiment and this performance art, or whatever you want to call it. They started retweeting it and telling people about it. And that is all that was needed. Like, just some other artists saying things to say, isn't this a cool idea? Doesn't this, spark inspiration or give you an idea of hope? And that's all my work has ever been about, is trying to open people's minds and get them to think different and have some hope. Because I know generally in my life I'm pretty pessimistic. So when things like this happen to me, and they seem to happen more and more often since I opened myself up to the potential that they can happen, people started sharing it around. And so one of the first things that was an issue with after launch was there wasn't much liquidity, and people were really worried if you've only got 50 holders and no one's going to provide liquidity. And so I asked GPT, I said, this looks like it might be a problem. What are the number one things that, not taking just the audience account, I asked what's the number one things we should take into account for Turbo this week. And it said community building, increased liquidity, collaborations. And I put that to the audience, and then they came back 50% majority increased liquidity. So then I fed that back to ask it, like, how do we increase liquidity? And it told me just to spread awareness of it, give the information to people, tutorials. And then that started snowballing from there. And then a couple of other people retweeted it, but also Pranksy made a V3 liquidity pool, which is just a different kind of pool, and added more liquidity to that. So that was another step and then everyone sort of moved over to that pool, and that sort of solved the liquidity problem. So I'm like, oh wow, the liquidity's better. But then other people started retweeting, and then it just, and I kept asking what's the next best thing I'm meant to do for this, and it said, open socials, and I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. And people are screaming for me to do things like, you should need to do this, you need to do that, and I'm like, I don't do anything. Like, I'm just pressing the buttons and getting the advice. It's actually, after the launch, I keep telling people, like, it's not mine. It's, you can do, like, if you want to open a Discord, or if you want to open Telegram, you do that. And people have started doing that. It's like, this is not my token. I started it, okay, but it's, the power is that it's in your hands to do whatever you like with it. And that's what I love about it. So anyway, this idea caught on. I could already, it started moving up slowly, people sharing and liking the idea. And yeah, like in the first day, 24 hours, or like in the first 48 hours, I think it was, we got to $1 million in market cap. And I was like, that is beyond my wildest dreams for this project, for that to happen. And it was just, just every day, the number of holders was doubling and doubling and tripling. And I'm like, I was just astounded. And I'm running the socials, but I started the Discord, and I just started seeing messages from those first 50 people. Like one of them saying, thank you, I put in $90 and I can now pay off my mother's loan on her house. I'm like, oh man, just stories like that. I just remember, like I did a video on my YouTube, like what is an NFT? And so many people still to this day come up to me and say, I watched that video, you got me into understanding crypto or NFTs a bit better. And so like that helping people is what really, just those stories, and just knowing those people that were willing to help me get an idea off the ground with as little as $90 can now get paid back for that is amazing. So like, anyway, we're not even done, because I woke up today and we're at $10 million market cap, which was 3 hours ago, and I posted that. And I went to Midjourney and I posted 1,000 turbo holders. There's 1,000 yellow toads there, a strong army. So I posted that as I'm looking at it 3 hours ago. And now if I go to the market now, oh my God, we're looking at $25 million market cap. 6.9, I got a screen capture this. 6.9 million in volume. 1 second while I screen capture this. I haven't been on Discord in a while because I needed just to get this out and off my chest. I told my daughter this year, we live quite a fair way away from her school. And she would really like to live closer to school. I can't afford that, obviously, just to move house because she wants to live closer. But I promised, I said, I'll keep trying. I won't give up this year. I can't promise you that I'll get there, but I won't stop trying this year. So we can get enough money to move house. And yesterday I came out and I was all excited and I was like, yes. And I was just out of bed. She was like, what, you're excited just to get out of bed? And I was like, yeah, I am excited to get out of bed, but it's not that. Like, I just was doing well on my project, and she'd been tracking the progress and she'd seen what I'd been doing in the past. And she was like, is this what it's like to live with a genius, is it? Like this. And I was like, I know she was joking, but like to think, like I just know like that element there, just to think that my daughter could maybe even look up to me and see something that I've done as successful. I was like, that was awesome as well. Like just so many things have come out of this that it's overwhelming because it has already taken on a life of its own that is far beyond me. Like I can't manage all the stories that have already been created through this. And of course, I don't take responsibility for all the good things or the bad things that happen because it's not mine, but just to know that I put in momentum from an idea that I had something that could take on a life of its own is really special. So thanks. And like, tell, if, yeah, I'm glad that I didn't give up. I'm glad that I kept pushing, because I was so close to stopping, and I was like, no, this is a stupid experiment. Like, maybe I should just forget this. I was so close to stopping doing art as well, because I thought, like, it's so hard. Like, I could release as much as I want, but there's no one interested. And as a result of getting, just this little idea to try and get more eyeballs on my artwork, this has just blown up far beyond what I could imagine. And now, of course, it worked. It got eyeballs on my artwork. So everyone's starting to bid on my artwork now. And the auctions have been started. And I'm so thankful for those new collectors as well. But it's just gratitude. I just had to get it off my chest. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.